Well, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name's Jasmine, and this video, I'll be covering the TryHackMe's CompTIA Pentest Plus, and just the first part of the first section, which is Pentesting Fundamentals. Learn the important ethics and methodologies behind every pentest. Oh, and before you continue watching this video, I will not be giving out answers or going through the simulations and labs. Okay, just go on their website or their YouTube channel if you want to find out the answers to the questions. I'm only doing this to practice my presentation. Okay, so thank you so much for stopping by, and you have a good one. So task 1, what is penetration testing? Before teaching you the technical hands-on aspects of ethical hacking, you'll need to understand more about what a penetration tester's job responsibilities are and what processes are followed in performing pen tests, which are finding vulnerabilities in a client's application or system. The importance and relevancy of cybersecurity are ever increasing and can be in every walk of life. News headlines fill our screens, reporting yet another hack or data leak. Cybersecurity is relevant to all people in the modern world, including a strong password policy to protect your emails, or to businesses and other organizations needing to protect both devices and data from damages. A penetration test or pen test is an ethically driven attempt to test and analyze the security defenses to protect these assets and pieces of information. A penetration test involves using the same tools, techniques, and methodologies that someone with malicious intent would use and is similar to an audit. According to Security Magazine, a cybersecurity industry magazine, there are over 2,200 cyber attacks every day, one attack every 39 seconds. Task 2, penetration testing ethics. The battle of legality and ethics in cybersecurity, let alone penetration testing, is always controversial. Labels like hacking and hacker often hold negative connotations, especially in pop culture, thanks to a few bad apples. The idea of legally gaining access to a computer system is a challenging concept to grasp. But after all, what makes it legal exactly? Recall that a penetration test is an authorized audit of a computer system's security and defenses, as agreed by the owners of the systems. The legality of penetration is pretty clear-cut in this sense. Anything that falls outside of this agreement is deemed unauthorized. Before a penetration test starts, a formal discussion occurs between the penetration tester and the system owner. Various tools, techniques, and systems to be tested are agreed on. This discussion forms the scope of the penetration testing agreement and will determine the course of the penetration test takes. Companies that provide penetration testing services are held against legal frameworks and industry accreditation. For example, the National Cybersecurity Center has the Czech accreditation scheme in the UK. This check means that only approved companies can conduct authorized penetration tests of public sector and CNI systems and networks. Ethics is the moral debate between right and wrong. Where an action may be legal, it may go against an individual's belief system of right and wrong. Penetration testers will often be faced with potentially morally questionable decisions during a penetration test. For example, they are gaining access to a database and being presented with potentially sensitive data, or they are perhaps performing a phishing attack on an employee to test an organization's human security. If that action has been agreed upon during the initial stages, it is legal, however ethically questionable. Hackers are sorted into 3 hats, where their ethics and motivations behind their actions determine what hat category they are placed into. Let's cover these 3 in the table below. White hat. These hackers are considered the good people. They remain within the law and use their skills to benefit others. For example, a penetration tester performing an authorized engagement on a company. Secondly, a gray hat. These people use their skills to benefit others often. However, they do not respect or follow the law or ethical standards at all times. For example, someone taking down a scamming site. A black hat. These people are criminals and often seek to damage organizations or gain some form of financial benefit at the cost of others. For example, ransomware authors infect devices with malicious code and hold data for ransom. Rules of Engagement, ROE. The ROE is a document that is created at the initial stages of a penetration testing engagement. This document consists of 3 main sections, explained in the table below, which are ultimately responsible for deciding how the engagement is carried out. The SANS Institute has a great example of this document, which you can view online here. I'm not clicking that. Okay. Permission. This section of the document gives explicit permission for the engagement to be carried out. This permission is essential to legally protect individuals and organizations for the activities they carry out. Test scope. This section of the document will annotate specific targets to which the engagement should apply. For example, the penetration test may only apply to certain servers or applications, but not the entire network. Rules. The rules section will define exactly the techniques that are permitted during the engagement. For example, the rules may specifically state that the techniques such as phishing attacks are prohibited, but man-in-the-middle attacks are okay. Task 3, Penetration Testing Methodologies. Penetration tests can have a wide variety of objects and targets within scope. Because of this, no penetration test is the same. There are no case-fits-all as to how a penetration tester should approach it. The steps a penetration tester takes during an engagement is known as the methodology. A practical methodology is a smart one, where the steps taken are relevant to the situation at hand. For example, having a methodology that you would use to test the security of a web application is not practical when you have to test the security of a network. Before discussing some different industry standard methodologies, we should know that all of them have general theme of the following stages. Stage of information gathering. This stage involves collecting as much publicly accessible information about a target or organization as possible. For example, OSINT and research, which stands for Open Source Intelligence. The enumeration or scanning stage is a stage that involves discovering applications and services running on the systems. For example, finding a web server that may be potentially vulnerable. The exploitation stage is a stage that involves leveraging vulnerabilities discovered on a system or application. This stage can involve the use of public exploits or exploiting application logic. In the stage of privilege escalation, once you have successfully exploited a system or application, known as a foothold, this stage is the attempt to expand your access to a system. You can escalate horizontally and vertically, where horizontally is accessing another account of the same permission group, i.e. another user, whereas vertically is that of another permission group, i.e. an administrator. The post-exploitation stage this stage involves a few substages. 1, what other hosts can be targeting, which is pivoting. 2, what additional information can we gather from the host now that we are a privileged user. 3, covering your tracks. And 4, reporting. OSSTMM. The Open Source Security Testing Methodology Manual provides a detailed framework of testing strategies for systems, software, applications, communications, and the human aspect of cybersecurity. The methodology focused primarily on how these systems, applications communicate, so it includes a methodology for 1, telecommunications, which are phones, VoIP, etc. 2. Wired networks. 3. Wireless communications. Advantages are that it covers various testing strategies in depth, includes testing strategies for specific targets, i.e. telecommunications and networking. 3. The framework is flexible depending upon the organization's needs. And 4. The framework is meant to set a standard for systems and applications, meaning that a universal methodology can be used in a penetration testing scenario. Its disadvantages are the framework is difficult to understand, very detailed, and tends to use unique definitions. OWASP. The Open Web Application Security Project framework is a community-driven and frequently updated framework used to solely to test the security of web applications and services. The Foundation regularly writes reports stating the top 10 security vulnerabilities a web application may have, the testing approach, and remediation. Its advantages are that it's easy to pick up and understand. 2. It is actively maintained and is frequently updated. 3. It covers all stages of engagement, from testing to reporting and remediation. And 4. It specializes in web applications and services. The disadvantages of OWASP is 1. It may not be clear what type of vulnerability a web application has. They can often overlap. 2. OWASP does not make suggestions to any specific software development life cycles. And 3. The framework doesn't hold any accreditation such as check. NIST Cybersecurity Framework 1.1. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework is a popular framework used to improve an organization's security standards and manage the risk of cybersecurity threats. This framework is a bit of an honorable mention because of its popularity and detail. The framework provides guidelines on security controls and benchmarks for success for organizations from critical infrastructure such as power plants, etc., all through to commercial. There is a limited section on a standard guideline for the methodology a penetration tester should take. Its advantages are 1. The NIST framework is estimated to be used by 50% of American organizations by 2020. So this is an older learning path. It's because it's 2024 now. 2. The framework is extremely detailed in setting standards to help organizations mitigate the threat posed by cyber threats. 3. The framework is very frequently updated. 4. NIST provides accreditation for organizations that use this framework. And 5. The NIST framework is designed to be implemented alongside other frameworks. The disadvantages are 1. NIST has many iterations of frameworks, so it may be difficult to decide which one applies to your organization. 2. The NIST framework has weak auditing policies, making it difficult to determine how a breach occurred. 3. The framework does not consider cloud computing, which is quickly becoming increasingly popular for organizations. The NCSC CAF. The Cyber Assessment Framework, CAF, is an extensive framework of 14 principles used to assess the risk of various cyber threats and an organization's defenses against these. The framework applies to organizations considered to perform virtually important services and activities, such as critical infrastructure, banking, and the likes. The framework mainly focuses on and assesses the following topics: 1. Data security. 2. System security. 3. Identity and access control. 4. Resiliency. 5. Monitoring. And 6. Response and recovery planning. Its advantages are: this framework is backed by a government cybersecurity agency. 2. This framework provides accreditation. 3. This framework covers 14 principles which range from security to response. Its disadvantages are: 1. The framework is still new in the industry, meaning that organizations haven't had much time to make the necessary changes to be suitable for it. 2. The framework is based on principles and ideas, and it isn't as directed as having rules like some other frameworks. Task 4, black box, white box, gray box penetration testing. So, there are 3 primary scopes when testing an application or services. Your understanding of your target will determine the level of testing that you perform in your penetration testing engagement. And this task will cover these 3 different scopes of testing. Black box testing process is a high-level process where the tester is not given any information about the inner workings of the application or service. The tester acts as a regular user testing the functionality and interaction of the application or a piece of software. This testing can involve interacting with the interface, i.e. buttons, and testing to see whether the intended result is returned. No knowledge of programming or understanding of the program is necessary for this type of testing. Black box testing significantly increases the amount of time spent during the information gathering and enumeration phase to understand the attack surface of the target. Gray box. This testing process is most popular for things such as penetration testing. It is a combination of both black box and white box testing processes. The tester will have some limited knowledge of the internal components of the application or piece of software. Still, it will be interacting with the application as if it were a black box scenario, and then using their knowledge of the application to try and resolve issues as they find them. With gray box testing, the limited knowledge given saves time and is often chosen for extremely well-hardened attack surfaces, which also stands for partial knowledge. Okay. White box testing. This testing process is a low-level process usually done by a software developer who knows programming and application logic. The tester will be testing the internal components of the application or piece of software and, for example, ensuring that specific functions work correctly and within a reasonable amount of time. The tester will have full knowledge of the application and its expected behavior and is much more time-consuming than black box testing. The full knowledge in a white box testing scenario provides a testing approach that guarantees the entire attack surface can be validated. So it also stands for full knowledge testing. Okay. Task 5, practical aim test. So this is where it goes to the, shouldn't have shown that, but that is it for this section. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching, and you have a good one.